Okay, a little brick pointing 101. Notice everybody's tackling some of these home projects while they're stuck in the quarantine. So I thought I'd do one on brick pointing. If any of you were to try to attempt fixing up that old chimney, I want to prevent you from doing that. You can actually find that on Repointing Brick for Dummies. And that is absolutely how a dummy would do it. So much wrong with that, I don't even know where to start. We're in Monmouth. We're going to work on this chimney right here. It's actually a really nice view from this rooftop. It's about 55 degrees, which is pretty much perfect for pointing. You'll notice I did not include the cutting part because it's a really dusty process, and I didn't have the camera. It would have been difficult to take a video while doing that anyway. As a matter of fact, if you attempt doing this job yourself, you'll get about 30 seconds into the cutting process and realize you've made a giant mistake. You can see the joints, the brick rather, don't have cuts all over them from the grinder. The cut with the grinder is nice and straight right along that old mortar joint. You can see that brick is nice and clean after I cut. I go through with a hose and I use it on jet, blast all that dust out of there, and then I actually use compressed air and a compressor and blow it right out, blow that water right out of there, make sure it's as clean as possible for a new, nice, strong bond. I busted out an array of joiners here, convex joiner for a rope finish like that I did on that fire pit. It's a rake like I did on my arch at home. You can see the side, the profile of those brick and how it's all raked back about 3/8 of an inch. That's a nice look. But for this one, we're going to use that baby right there for our initial stripe through. And I push that mortar right into those joints. And this chimney was finished with a concave joiner, which is pretty typical to see, and we'll use that one too as well to match the same finish that it had before. You'll see that 3/8 side of that. It's got two sides. One's 1/4 inch, one's 3/8, and that 3/8 just a little bit big for this one. If we were flat joining it, I might use it in some spots, but we're actually gonna go with just like the original with the concave joiner, and there it is. You've probably seen those in the hardware stores and stuff before. They're pretty common finish. You can see that's what was on the old chimney, so we're going to do exactly that. You can see how those old joints were cracked too, which is why we're up here fixing this thing. That horsehair brush will come in handy at the end too. You'll see that baby. So we'll throw all the rest of these things back while we get going with just the weapons we need. I don't know why I put that footage in this video, but yeah, there we go. There's the two joiners I'm going to use. First part of the process is to make sure you got your brick saturated, and you notice I'm using the hose now on mist. I'm not trying to totally soak the chimney. I don't want any standing water actually in the joints at all. I just want to make sure that those brick have been saturated, and that they're not, again, totally soaked. You'll notice I'm only going to do the top where I'm going to start. I always point from the top going to the bottom because you'll need to do this process. You got to keep those brick wet, so if you're going to hose it down in the middle of the process, if you're working from the bottom up, you're going to drip water all over your brand new joints, mess up the coloration, the strength, all kinds of shit. Okay, you'll notice now here I am taking some mud off the trowel and putting my head joints in first. I like to do my head joints first because it's pretty easy, especially when you're doing a long section, to miss some of those. If you seen guys do the bed joints before, and then when you step back, it's kind of hard to notice if you missed a head joint here and there, but it's easy to tell when you've got all those head joints, and just those, and you can step back and look and really know that you've got them all. Saves you from going back. Now, obviously, I'm doing my bed joints. And just simply scrape a little bit of that off the trowel and move right along. And I'm probably can't tell, but I'm sort of pressing it in there. You can see it's rolling out of that joint. Some of it will fall down onto I got coverage on the roof, the blankets, drop cloths, so that'll help keep me from having to clean up for a half an hour after. Always address my corners as I get to them, and I won't work down that whole side and then have one side of the corner dry mortar, and then the other side when I go to do it is the new stuff. I like to make sure that same batch of mud, I'm getting those corners, and then when I do go to that other side of the chimney, I'll just bring the new joint into the finished corner, and that's the way I usually do it. Now you can see I've got that concave joiner out, and I'm going for my actual finish. And you can see too, I put a little more mud on the trowel, a little more mud on the joiner, and that's just to make absolutely sure when I'm doing this finish run through that I've got them totally packed in. And this is where a little more mud will fall too, but again, I've got my coverage, and I can actually even pick some of that mud right up off that blanket, throw it back in the bucket, mix it up, and keep using it. So yeah, working away. I think it looks like I did about 4 courses here before I'll move on and wet my next section. Now after a good, this all changes depending on your ambient temperatures and whatnot, but after it's good and dry and I've got my run done, I'll take this little pointing trowel and I'm just scraping off those little boogers that curled out when I pressed that mortar in. So I'm just going along and I'm basically putting that, it's got a slight curve to the side of that trowel, so I just sort of run it along the joints, and it just takes those little boogers off after they're good and dry. And then the final step is brushing it off, and you'll notice I'm kind of going at an angle, 45, 35 degree angle. You just don't want to go straight across your new joints. It's always good to sort of brush it at an angle. Well, there you have it. Finished repointed chimney. There isn't mud all over the place. As a matter of fact, I won't even need to wash that. A lot of people, after they'll do a repointing job, will wash the brick with acid to clean it up. You only have to do that if you get mortar everywhere. So thanks for watching, and hopefully this will help you if you do decide to take on the task of cutting and pointing your chimney. If you don't want to take on the task of cutting and pointing your chimney, because you'll probably screw it up, check out rockstarstoneworks.com and give us a call, and we can take care of it just like you just saw. All right. Thanks, everyone.